I want to dive into
Like,
something a little different. Uh,
mhm.
at the beginning of that, there you, and it's not the first time I've heard you in our conversations, identified with the monikers of ADHD and autism, and I'm curious what that means to you. Like, what makes you Marinette with ADHD and autism versus I'm just Marinette, and this is how I am.
So for the longest time, I mean, I honestly didn't ever put a label on it. I just knew that I was just different from people. I was very quiet and shy. I appeared that way, but really, what I was doing was I was observing. Like I watched the world around me. I was always interested in deeper connections and conversations. I was not very deep into, and I'm still not. Like small talk and stuff. I just would prefer not to. I get very like overstimulated very easily, especially by sound, people, and then also touch. And as far as the ADHD, I get super hyper focused on situations, which I've always done my whole life, almost to the point where it's like obsessive. Uh, Health and healing and personal growth, that's my hypervigilance. That's my one thing that I hyper focus on, and I have for a very long time. And like just certain stimming. We can like hold our hands differently. We sleep differently. Just those kinds of things. But the more research that I'm doing, I'm finding that there's like phospholipid issues. There's gut issues that actually cause the exacerbation from those. There's certain things that happen in vitro when you're developing between the mother and the baby. That can also exacerbate the tendencies to have ADHD and autism or autism. So, like I said, for the longest time, I just thought I was kind of weird. Like, I just thought I was a weird person. I mean, I looked like I was normal on the outside, but like once you got to know me, you're like, people are like, oh my gosh, this chick's weird. Like, I was telling my husband the other night, like, we were watching some like shows from the 80s. I can't even remember what it was. Like, oh, it was like the A Team. Like, that was what I wanted to watch as a girl. Like, I didn't really want to do a whole lot of girly things. I'd rather watch like Star Trek and like, Star Wars and, do those kinds of things. Play outside with the boys, go play baseball. A lot of those things are just, we think, I don't want to say in a different way, but I want to say that it's more of a focus that we get. And, my son tries to explain it to me that we see it as a bigger picture. We're always seeing the bigger picture of everything. So that's why we have to find out the why. Like it's a constant curiosity, I guess is probably the best way to put it. The ADHD executive functioning, I am like all over the place and squirrel. But like I said, a lot of that can be nutritional and gut imbalances. So like I said, I always thought that I was just a different person. I just thought I was just me. I was just weird. And it wasn't until, oh geez, I wouldn't say I was 37 before I even was diagnosed. So it was because I was in an environment where it was high stress and I was trying to work as a nurse and I'm like making small mistakes that I shouldn't have ever made, or like not even mistakes, but like just overlooking things, specifically like in an email or typing something. And so I thought that I always had to be like a super person, super woman, super nurse. So when I went and saw one of my providers, she's like, "Yeah, I think this is what you're dealing with." And she was totally along the lines of, your diet, your sleep can hugely affect it. So yeah, I just yeah,
Yeah, and so my philosophy on it is I just can't stand the terms. And
yes.
with that said, I that understand that there's a lot of levels again to this going on, like there is with all things. There
Hmm.
is very much the real debilitations that someone can have, and I do think they are with cause. Nothing's
Hmm.
random, and I don't think
Hmm.
defective individuals are just created, right? Uh, ADHD, I think, is often the result of poison, physical, or emotional, even. And, like things
Hmm.
that can happen to you or be input into your body in different capacities, diet or otherwise, then make it difficult to focus because you got all this stuff going on in you.
Exactly.
There's also the autism. which, yeah, I mean, it's just toxins. It's just toxic buildup and toxic overload and immune system damage through the
Mhm.
various immunological poisons that we have in us, around us, and etc. And the problem is, although that's real,
Mhm.
it ends for a lot of people at I have this, she has that, he has that, instead of looking at, oh, this person's experiencing these symptoms that get described as these labels. What can
Mhm.
we do to mitigate and or reverse those things from happening? The labels end up being
Exactly.
the box that people put themselves in or put others in, and then they just stay there their whole life because they're like, ah,
Mhm.
I'm just in this box. That's why I always challenge the use of these labels as self descriptors, because I think it's a lot more harmful. But then there's a lot more, that there's a even further layer going on where these things are weaponized.
Mhm.
If a child doesn't want to focus for 8 hours a day on some bullshit schoolwork, they're
Yep.
not ADHD. They're a human child.
Exactly.
If someone doesn't like stupid robotic small talk of the
Mhm.
average everyday world that's completely meaningless, they're not autistic. They're just a real person, and everyone else is a bot. Like, based on your description, I'm ADHD, I'm autistic. Like, no, like, it's they're weaponized terms at this point.
They really
And
are.
then
And
those
it's
labels get used to put people on drugs and
mhm.
to make them feel wrong. And so that's why when I see someone who's a very high functioning person, clearly, and I'm not saying that you're without your challenges, but
Mhm.
I always challenge to stop identifying with these things because you're just Marinette. And if the
Yeah.
crazy world thinks you're weird, so be it. I think the world's weird. You know?
That's so good that you bring that up because I actually had that epiphany like a couple weeks ago. I was listening to a meditation. I was doing a meditation by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he says, in the meditations, become no one. You're nothing. You're just you. Like you're just you. And once you have that realization, you're just like, oh my gosh, these are just man-made terms that they put
Yeah.
to try to like group us into, and it's more like division. It's like, oh, well, you're weird. You're not like the normal people. Well, maybe part of it is we're not indoctrinated. Maybe part of it is we can see outside of that indoctrination. Maybe part of it is we can have that critical thinking, that can actually see outside the bullshit, because a lot of us are bullshit detectors. We just are. We're blunt, we're honest, and we call things as they are. But that's just who we are as people. And you're 100% right. They do use it as a label. And here's the medication, and here's this. Well, when you start digging into it, you're right. It's toxic buildup. It's environment. It's emotional. It's all of it to combine together. But I do think that they use it as a way to continue to divide everyone. Like
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
It's
Mm-hmm.
division, it's distraction, it's drugging, it's
Yes.
yeah, it's all the above. And it's you say, we bullshit people. I think a lot of times it gets used to bullshit ourselves too. I,
Oh,
I
that's
think
a
a
good
lot
one.
I think a lot of people, perhaps you may have found yourself doing this at times,
Hmm.
might not do something the way that would be ideal, or the way that they would have liked to have performed at whatever level, and then chalk it up to, oops, it's my ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, it's my autism.
Yeah.
Like, it's a dispelling of responsibility in a lot of ways for not achieving to the degree that we'd like to.
Well, and it's like a lack of accountability.
Yeah.
So some people use it as just a total lack of accountability. Well, I'm sorry, there's still things that you need to fix and figure out. I mean, we're still part of, a community. We're still part of society. You got to still take accountability and try to fix things. I mean, it's kind of like anybody with a chronic illness where they are like just constantly dwelling in on that chronic illness, and that's almost becomes their identification. Well, if you're not going to really do anything about it, you can't, that's not taking any accountability to change anything, you
Exactly.
know?
And then conversations like this get called hateful. But meanwhile, what we are trying to do, and what I'm trying to do, I'll speak for myself, is empower people to understand that it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to just chalk a label on and then excuse the negative or less than ideal scenarios. There is something to be done to make it more optimal. That can
Mm-hmm.
be done. There's always a way. The people trying to
Always.
put you in that box and keep you in that box and have you keep yourself in that box, they're the enemy
Yep.
while they coddle
100%.
you.
100%. Well, and I was just reading a study this morning. I can't cite it exactly. Like I was talking about the liposomal deficiency. I mean, that's like huge. If your body is like not getting enough lipids and all those, like the fats and stuff, and able to, use them like they're supposed to, of course you're going to have dysfunction in your body and in your cells and in your brain. I mean, that's just the way it is. Um, so like, yeah, a lot of it when you start really diving into it, it is lifestyle. It is taking accountability for your own actions. It's taking like using coping mechanisms. I mean, we're just living in a human life. But here's the other thing. I'm so glad you actually brought this up. So we live in a society now where we're like stuck inside, right? So we're on our computers, which you and I, we have our businesses where we're on our computers most of the day. That's what we do for a living. But we're inside or we're on our phones or we're on screens, whatever. We have this huge disconnect from nature now. Like we were never intended as humans to have the lifestyle that we do right now.
Yeah.
We were meant to be outside. We were meant to be one with nature. We were meant to eat like the earth, like, an earth diet. We weren't meant to be living in stressful situations, stuck in a classroom for 8, 9 hours a day. Oh, and then you have to go to activities on top of that. Oh, and then you have homework on top of that. I mean, it's just constant stress. And we were never meant to be that way. I read an interesting book too that was talking about how people that are like ADHD autistic, really it's because we are disconnected from nature. Like we are just disconnected. Again, food, but even on our environment. Because most people, they call it green therapy, which green therapy is just being out in nature. So green therapy is extremely beneficial for ADHD and autism. Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to ground your vibration in your body is going to be like neutralized from all of the constant stress and the negative vibrations. It's just there's so much to it, and it blows my mind that, like you said, they try to make it as a weapon. They weaponize it. I mean, try to divide, try to keep people on medications, try to medicate everybody. Because I mean, part of it is a business, right? They're trying to make money off of all the medications that they're selling. So why would you tell people for free you can go walk outside, spend 15 minutes outside, or go watch the sunrise, and you're going to get all of those benefits, especially your circadian rhythm will be going back into place. Like, why would you do that if they're not going to make any money off of it?
Yeah. I mean, there's the money element to it, but I think it's far more sinister than that. I think it goes beyond that into esoteric reasons. And I think
Ooh.
there is just genuine evil in this world that wants the people of the world to suffer. And when you genuinely wrap your head around that as a possibility, well,
Uh-huh.
suddenly things start to make sense where they don't otherwise.
That
It's
is so interesting.
I
You are
think it
so
goes
right, though.
yeah, it goes far beyond money. They print money.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
But money isn't anything. The people
true.
orchestrating these engineering of society, they print money. It's
Uh-huh.
not real.
And no.
So it's not about that. They have everyone else chasing the money. They make the money. So they don't need money through these things.
Mm,
It's far more. It's far more than money. Yeah, I think
power and control.
it's power and control, and I think there's just a genuine evil in this world that wants
Mhm.
suffering and pain, and they feed off it like parasites. And
I agree 100%.
if you enjoyed this clip, be sure to check out the full episode I did with Marinette for a conversation about a whole lot of good stuff. We talk about her personal journey and the health challenges that she's overcome. We talk about holistic nursing and what that is. And of course, we talk about beatcancer.org and all of the wonderful things we do over there. We also talk about society overall and explore some interesting things that are going on in the world. So click the link in the description and check it out, and I'll see you over there.